This is a very exciting day, guys.
We got a good buddy coming on. It's going to be a lot of fun. He is the most interesting actuary. Not only actuary, probably one of the most interesting men that I know. People overall.
Yeah, this is it's going to be really interesting today to have. We help Doug. You always have to play with this. Oh, that's the best guess we've ever had. Now you're figuring out how to not say that. Remember that little issue?
This is truly.
This one is really tricky because he's such a dear friend and an amazing human being. So
I will say he gives, out of all the guests that we've had, he does give the best hugs. He's also the only guest that I've hugged. So am I
think about that? Yeah, I think that's the only guest that's hugged me as well.
I think when I start seeing guests in real life, I'm going to give them a hug and rate it next to this guy and see how they feel.
Should we put that on LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Everyone order. Okay, I like it.
I feel like might be getting in some trouble there, but
we don't have an HR department, so
we don't.
It's great.
Hey, Dylan, speaking of inappropriate texts and things that have been sent my way, last night Dylan sent me. For one, he saw a picture of me and he didn't believe it was me because I guess I didn't look fat and disgusting.
You look good.
He's like, I know, but like the way you phrased it was
Paul Gagliotti was talking about seeing doppelgangers of you, and then I'm confused. I'm like, is this supposed to be a doppelganger? Because this guy looks so much like Doug. It's got to be Doug. Turns out it was Doug.
Except he's hotter and more fit, so it's obviously not him.
You were definitely flexing and sucking it in for that. So
I was sucking in my tum-tum because I wanted to look good in front of all these MGAs. So Mark Gardella, good friend Mark Gardella, we need to have Curtis on the show at some point. And actually, Mr. Hertz from Ahoy, who I was hanging out with yesterday as well, Peter, good friend of ours. Both ready to come on the show and chat about distribution to this wonderful group of MGAs. Actually, for David Gritz, who was on the show a couple months ago, their MGA Labs program kicked off yesterday. Met some great MGAs there. A lot of hungry people ready to go. And Mark and I did a nice presentation on distribution and how to think about it, right? How to build it. Did a little tourist plug, of course, why you should use us, and then talked about the massive failure that was Dylan's MGA called Stable.
Dylan's MGA, yeah. I love that.
Yeah, that somehow he broke me into.
I actually work for a company called Unstable.
Unstable.
Totally different. Yeah. Well, it was a description of the founder, one of the three founders.
One of the three founders was Unstable. Well, to be figured out who that was, but so full circle here. Amit, sorry, I just gave the guest name away. Amit was our actuary at Stable,
and he was such a good guy. Was definitely not a cause for failure. Just to be clear,
in spite of him, we did everything we could to like burn that thing to the ground. But he kept it. He kept it going. We should do someday. Can we do a full Stable story and the real behind the scenes of what happened? Are there lawsuits that might pop up?
There'll definitely be lawsuits, and also you. I'm waiting for the Miami guys to hit us with one, so they can join the waiting list.
Listen, I never said they were from Miami, Dylan. You just outed them.
Yeah, it's what
I just said. 2% loss ratio.
All right.
Amit doesn't have a PR department, but I think he might be getting one to review this and cutting some things out.
Sounds good.
But we don't cut.
No cuts.
Everything stays in. No. All right. Well, let's bring this guy on, this stranger to all of us, and see what he has to say. If you're an MGA thinking about how to build out your actuarial chops, this guy does everything. Actually, he does product. He'll help you think about claims. Sometimes he brings capacity to the table. He's got a lot of good connections with capacity.
He's a producer. He's
a licensed producer, licensed in all 50 states and 4 territories. How many territories do we have?
Who knows?
All of them. This guy.
Public schools failed us, so we don't know.
Yeah. Well, I didn't go to public school, Dylan.
Oh,
So
damn.
anyway, yeah. That's all right. All right. Okay. Well, let's get this guy going on here.
Let's go.
I don't know what that means.
Oh, there we go. That looks like it did it. Yeah.
Oh,
Cool.
you look really
That's
nice.
close.
Yeah.
All right, that's better. I don't know what changed, but at least it's.
Your luscious hair is now more in focus.
Yeah. It's really nice. All right. We're already recording, so we can just start.
I think that's even better. Good. Can we start with that as well? Can you make sure you have that part? Amit, who does technology, his camera's not working correctly, so give him a second to start his camera.
We don't do camera technology. We do insurance technology. Vastly different.
Totally different.
Vastly different.
All right, let's get started.
All right, guys. Hey, all right. We have Amit on. This is super exciting. This guy, I don't even know what to say about him. I'm in awe whenever I get to hang out with him. He does, as we said earlier, give really good hugs. So if you ever see him, he will give you a hug. But he'll also do some actuarial stuff for you. So in addition to like his professional hugging, you have a side gig doing some actuarial stuff for InsurTechs, right?
Yeah, just sometimes. Yeah, in between hugs, exactly. Although, wait, so you know the whole story about the hugs, right? Would you know the story
I do,
about the hugs?
I don't want to.
Okay, good.
You should tell it. You should tell it if you're comfortable, because I don't want to.
Oh yeah, no, I'm totally comfortable telling it. Yeah. No,
You're gonna make people very concerned when they're getting hugs from you now. They're like, "Which one am I?"
Well,
now
it would only matter. It would only matter. Yeah, no, I tell clients this ahead of time anyway. So kind of like part of my intro call with a client, or soon after that, will be, look, if we're going to start working together, what's very important to me is life is too short to not work with people that you love. And so for me, the best way for me, the indicator for that is, or my litmus test is when I go see a client first time in person, and I picked up quite a few of them during the pandemic, so I never got to see them in person. And so when I would go to conferences, I won't name any of them unless you're sponsored by them, or see that just happen to see him in person, no matter where the setting is. So like if I walk up to this client and I shake their hand, then that just means that once our scope of work is done, I'll wish you the best of luck, but we're probably not going to be working together. But if instead I run up to you, and you could be in a suit talking to like an investor or some very formal meeting, if I just run up to you and give you a big hug, then for me that's a friend for life, and so that's who I want to continue working with. And then it's kind of like the mantra, like the way I look at it is on the weekends, on the evenings, because there's a bunch of, I see CEO and president all over the place, right? You guys are crazy. And so you guys are kind of like, hey, we're thinking about doing this, or pivoting, we're thinking about trying to change this, and we've got this presentation to do tomorrow. Can you look through this, or can you give us a hand? So at that stage, if you're a friend, it's like a friend asking you to move furniture. Nobody wants to do it, but you're never going to say no to a friend to move furniture. So that's kind of like the test I use. And then I'm happy to work on evenings and weekends for you guys, for you crazy presidents and CEOs.
Yeah,
love it.
And you have run up to me and given me a hug in front of a prospective customer, and you help close the deal because the customer's like, if this guy's getting hugs, we need to work with this.
Exactly. So also, I want to add one other category of person, and that's the person who, when you give them a hug, they then bear hug you back, pick you up, and walk around with you. And then that person invites you onto a podcast.
Yeah, no, that definitely did happen.
Dylan.
Yeah.
That would be Dylan. I think I still remember the first time I saw you, right? Because we were at a bar in Vegas. Well, I was like already sat there, and I was on one side of the kind of like bar where they have those weird fences, right? And then I saw you, and it was going to take me too long to walk around to come and see you, so I just jumped over, and I hope to give you a hug. And then yes, I think you lifted me up after that. So yeah, I do remember that.
I want to say that was a Markel sponsored happy hour at ITC.
ITC, yeah.
So we could talk about hugs all day, but what I want to talk about, you worked for so many different InsurTechs, helping them build all their actuarial stuff, including mine. Some big, I don't know how comfortable you are talking about the different ones, but so our goal with this show, right, is we're trying, and I think we have one or two people listening that are building MGAs or helping with MGAs. and love to have you kind of chat about, the actuarial load. So how to think about things, but you guys are great because you do more than just actuarial stuff. You helped us at least think about product, helped introduce us to capacity, things like that. So I don't know how you want to, maybe I'd love to hear some stories maybe of the journey you've been on, and you can name names if you're comfortable. But then also just like, hey, I'm at the earliest stage here. I'm thinking, I haven't even thought about an actuary, right? I have an idea. I have somebody telling me I should do this. Maybe I'm chatting with a reinsurance broker or something like that. When should I be getting Amit involved? Like that would be interesting as well. My view is as soon as possible, but even if he's not doing any work for you, just to have a chat with him. But just like, guys, what because we know Amit so well, I feel like we're really going off the rails here, and we could just chat with him forever. Dylan, you're good at like getting us on track. How should we approach this?
Sounds good.
By the way,
Well,
we should have done that before the show.
I do have an idea for you if it helps.
Go for
it. Okay, so like when I've been introduced to new clients, or just people who are kind of like generally interested about insurance, which fortunately there's a few more people nowadays than there were 10 years ago. When InsurTech kind of like, I think that's when it really. So I was an actuary back in 2000. That's when I started, and then worked at Farmers Insurance for several years. I don't know if you've already put this in the intro. I don't know.
No.
We didn't. No, we should ask you.
Because you're talking about hunting. Yeah.
You worked with our other good friend Isaac, right?
I did. I'm actually working with him again now with his new startup. So yes, at Kettle. Yeah. So
Isaac, by the way, he refuses to come on the show. Maybe if we show him you on the show, he'll come on now.
Well, hang on. Let's make sure I say good things then. I'm only joking. Hopefully Isaac is going to get that. Oh yeah, hang on. Okay, fun fact about Isaac on this side. Then I'll answer your question. I'll try and answer your question. A couple of years ago, I was conducting a panel for the CAS, for the Casualty Actuarial Society, and they had we had David McFarlane from Coterie. Coterie's another one of the clients or people that we supported since 2019. We had Tete, who I think at the time was the chief actuary at Cruise. And then we had Isaac on it. And so to start the intro, like for me to like, part of my job is to ask them questions, but prior to that, I have to introduce everyone. So, I like introduce people in somewhat tongue-in-cheek way. Like Tete's got remarkable hair. So I talked about how he's just kind of like, he's got this like lovely flock of hair. And then I did one for David. I don't remember what I did for David. Maybe being really tall or just muscular or whatever it is. Like, because I've seen like the rise of David, like from like, he's never been skinny, but like this tall guy who's now this like tall buff boxer, big reach kind of guy. And then with Isaac, I was like, what the hell am I going to use with him? And I had a picture from Grand Cayman from a few years ago where my wife and I had gone out there. They didn't have their second daughter yet. They just had their first one. And we went out there and I was helping him to build this bench, like to put your shoes in, and then it's got like a nice little comfy cushion on the top. And so like we're sat at the end of it, there's like two actuaries taking frigging forever watching our wives in disgust, watching us try and put this thing together. And then we eventually finish, we sit down on it, we like give each other a high five, but our like feet are dangling with our bare feet. So I just like put something about either like him having like been on foot GQ for David, Vidal Sassoon or Hair Weekly or whatever for Tete. And then I think I did something about like the podiatrist guide or something like that for Isaac. And use that picture with him. And so after there's like so I have like these two really nice ones for Tete and David, and then this one for Isaac instead. And we're like, we've got like our little friggin' hobbit feet sticking out there. Anyway, okay, so now going back to your question. Okay, how would I answer? So I'll meet new clients and I'll have people come up to me and they'll be like, Doug, you did this as well. And it was, hey, I've got this great idea for an MGA. And now it's probably an okay word now. Probably 2019, 2020 was a bit of a like a taboo. You didn't want to talk about being an MGA. And then certainly in 2015, that's when it was all starting to really pop up. And then like, you would go everywhere and you could just say, I'm going to become an MGA, and VCs would throw money your way. And so what I started to get people when they were introduced to me, and even if I was going to join them as a consultant, or an advisor, or even just chat to them in general, like somewhat informally about what they're doing. What I started to realize, excuse me, was before you even decide you want to be an MGA, you've got to kind of figure out like what is it what are you trying to do? What's the insurance product you're trying to do? Are you trying to bring something brand spanking new to the market that nobody's ever done before? So that's kind of like one of the questions that we go through. Another one is, so what's your kind of like your key differentiator? What's going to make you succeed? And it's either going to be, I have this really innovative product, new insurance product that I want to launch. I have friends, I came from reinsurance or from an insurance carrier, and they've already backed me and said, yes, I will, I'll provide you capacity for it. Or I figured out distribution. So I'm some way, somehow, I'm trying to do pet insurance, and I have all of these SPCAs, various and vets all around the country who nobody will use the service I already have, and therefore I'm going to bring this insurance product into the market. And so when you understand where you are there, then what I would normally lean people towards is like normally the hardest thing is either if they, what's that field of dreams, like if they build it they will come, right? But that doesn't necessarily happen if you don't have the right distribution. And so if you think you've got distribution figured out, if you don't, so I'll go like the 1, 2, 3. So distribution, innovative insurance product, capacity. So what of those 3 things do you have? If you only have distribution figured out and you're going to be able to nail it, but you don't yet think that your insurance product is innovative, in other words, you could start selling off-the-shelf general liability, BOP, commercial auto, whatever it could be, and you're still trying to find capacity for that, then I would encourage you to actually just become an insurance agency to begin with. And then focus on that. You're going to get a decent commission just from starting up an insurance agency. You won't have to hire me as an actuary to try and build you a new product, because you can just take something off the shelf. And when I say off the shelf, that potentially could be your capacity as well. So you won't even need to go out and find a reinsurer or insurance carrier and build out a product, because you'll just go to a Chubb, a Hiscox, whoever, and say, hey, I want to, or Coterie, and you would turn around and say, hey, I want to start selling BOP. And they'll say, great, sign up here as an agency, and you're up and running. And the barrier to entry for that is like ridiculously small. So now that was the first example. And the middle one would be, actually, no, I'll go all the way to the end, to the capacity one instead. So then, so you might have come from the reinsurance or insurance world, and you've already got secured capacity, and you're kind of trying to fill in these other blanks. Again, I would encourage, so long as if the product's not innovative, just use something that's off the shelf, like ISO, AIS. If you're doing something in the admitted, even if you're doing it in the non-admitted space, you can still use public filings. And be able to leverage the rating that they have on that, because potentially you're not going to have any experience, loss experience. You're going to have hopefully a lot of insurance experience. You're not going to have much loss experience. So rather than you trying to figure out how I'm going to price these things, you might have some innovative small nuance, like workers' compensation for restaurants. And so you want to start installing webcams, because that way you can just make sure that it's kept clean and the fridge is closed, or I don't know, or there's nothing left on the ground that's going to have slip and falls. So if you think that by putting in a webcam or an extra ingredient is going to help mitigate losses, but you're still going to use a off-the-shelf insurance product, then that's your that's your value add. So go out, take somebody else's product off the shelf, and or cross collaborate with someone to build it, and then put in your uniqueness towards it. And then the last piece would be, I'm trying to build this insurance thing and it doesn't exist. This new insurance line, and nobody's ever done it before. And maybe look back in the day and what Kettle's done, and some of these other parametric companies where they're I want to come up with this new, or Kate Stillwell back in the day when she did Jumpstart. Even though I didn't help her at all with Jumpstart, but she's fantastic. And so she came out and said, hey, I've got this idea. People have this bloody really high deductible on their California earthquake, the CEA, California Earthquake Authority deductible. And so what if I do a deductible buyback for them instead? And that's an innovative product that she came up with. And so it's depending where you are, makes sense as to whether or not you should go, full hog, go for an MGA to begin with, or if you should just go for an agency, or maybe even just something on the side. I've a client that we work with, Authentic in New York, whose idea was, can we do a turnkey solution for captives or for larger clients who want to insure, kind of like, not I say self-insure, but like, have their client base who buys insurance, so buys a bot policy, and then they get to share in the profitability of that risk by setting up a captive. So it's like captive in the box, very turnkey. You come in, we've built our bot product, we'll embed into your workflow, and then people can start buying insurance. And then on the back end, you're gonna, because you're not a licensed agent, so we won't be able to pay you a commission. We'll be able to give you a finder's fee, but on the back end, you'll be able to share in the risk. So it really depends on where they go. And it's the other thing I always like to talk about is like the crawl, walk, run. So I once did this with a client, and I won't mention the name, but they were trying to do something, and it just, in my face, I was like, I can't let them do this. And I would tell them, don't do it that way, and they wouldn't listen. And consulting 101 is normally you tell your client, like, hey, I think you should try this thing. They say no. You try and explain why you think they should do it that way. They say no, and you say, okay, we'll do it your way. But the problem is, like, we're getting older, not younger, and I like to make new mistakes, not old mistakes. And so when I see old mistakes about to happen again, I'm like, I really don't want to. I want to push people away from that. And so in that example, the analogy I came up with is like, right now you're trying to go to the moon. And so in order to go to the moon, how do you get there? Well, you need a spaceship. Great. Let's dial it back a bit because you're not going to have enough funds to be able to build a spaceship. So what else do you need? Well, you need astronauts, and they need to be in astronaut suit things, which I'm sure there's a more correct term for that, spacesuits. And so instead, I'm like, so if you're trying to go to the moon and you need to build a spaceship ultimately to get there, let's at least get you your astronaut suits, your spacesuits ready so that you can send them up to the moon. What we should be doing is trying to build a frigging diving suit to go in a submarine to the bottom of the ocean. You're going in the opposite direction. And so that's kind of like the full process behind the crawl, walk, run is if you set yourself up initially in your astronaut suit as an agency, and then if you start finding that some of the products that are off the shelf aren't cutting it, or you think you could do them better, or you want to add or remove coverages or whatever it could be, that's when you're now starting to like build out your spaceship. That's when you're actually now going to say, all right, I've tried this method, it's worked. I've started to get some traction. I've started to make some money, some commission from it. Now I want to take some of that money that I'm making and not just put it in my pocket, but I want to now try and build out from an agency into an MGA, and then potentially also set up a captive or some other way of sharing in the risk.
So I think the crawl, walk, run thing though applies even if you are an MGA, and I think trying to build that perfect product, right? You're not. So maybe the analogy is like, hey, I am able to go to the moon right now, but I want to go to Jupiter. You're like, okay, well, you can't convince any of the reinsurers to let you go to Jupiter, so why don't we focus on getting you to the moon? And as you produce data and show the need for whatever additional feature is needed or new data source, whatever it is that you're trying to innovate on, taking steps towards that as well, rather than just like going fully on for what you consider to be perfection. And like how you laid that out is exactly how you helped me, right? Thinking about it, I was like, this is what I want to build, and this is what I see needing to be built. And you're like, great, nobody's going to let you do that. So why don't we figure out what they will let you to do out of that, and then we can slowly get to the point where you can do everything.
And I think that applies to literally anyone going for VC capital that doesn't have previous successes, right, in their because that's a whole different category of individual who's people seeking money who have already had a big exit. Totally different conversations with VCs. But if it's your first company or your first VC-backed company, you got to show those milestones. And you mentioned the boom of the MGA, where it was an explosive thing. Everyone's just throwing money at it immediately. Those days are long gone. So finding those baby steps, hitting those milestones along the way, showing that you have a distribution path. And just to be clear, I think when it comes to the insurance side, if you're and almost any other product as well, really, your distribution should be the number one thing you're talking about. If you're not selling it, if you don't have a path to sell it, you will make no money. So I don't care what you're selling. If it's software, if it's a service, you've got to have a distribution path. And I feel like that's a lot of times on the back burner for a lot of entrepreneurs, and it should be the very first thing they're thinking about. The product, if you're thinking about distribution, you're going to end up having a conversation about the product because it's about demand. Okay. And if you're not seeing, there's got to be demand for what you're going to produce, even if it's a brand new product and it's fully, 0 to 1 product. It's the first of its kind. No one has this on the entire planet. Doesn't matter. There's still going to have to be demand for this. You're going to be guessing a bit more, right? But you need to know the pain point for that person. You're going to need to understand that potential customer has the money to pay you and will have the desire to pay you that money for that service and create some value. So, I really, one of the things that we talk about on the show is we want to encourage the people who need to be encouraged, and we need to discourage the people who need to be discouraged from their path, because that path can be long, expensive, add years of challenges to a person's life that end up being really affecting them financially really negatively. And you don't want to see that. I want to see people succeed. So if we can help course correct on a person who is already in the process, then fantastic. Or like I said, just nip it right before they've even started and saying, hey, listen, you've really got to consider X, Y, and Z before you take that first step. So I appreciate that the way that you're approaching this and having those early conversations really sets people on a path of understanding of what it is, the reality of starting that business, because for a lot of people, it's going to be their first business.
Yeah.
Also, what I don't appreciate is that the sun, so I'm in San Francisco, where normally you wake up and it's just clouds everywhere, and the sun right now is slapping me in the face. So my apologies. I'll probably be adjusting the curtain as I go along here. Yes, yeah, exactly, yeah.
I have a question for you, Amit, on what you said about the two different types of entrepreneurs who are looking to set up MGAs come to you. The ones that have a play in an established line, so they've got to kind of get into that, and those that are bringing something completely new to market. I'm sure you're working on a variety of these. So of those two broad projects, which one excites you the most, and why?
So it depends what hat I'm putting on right now. If I'm putting on like I'm putting my distribution, I'm a licensed producer as well. So I've got my P&C and surplus lines license in all 50 states and DC, which I enjoy. I've had that also since I think I became licensed in 2015. So I get enjoyment out of working on that with new people when we're just setting up their agencies and trying to figure out, because they may turn around and say, oh, this is going to be a pain in the ass, so it's going to be really hard, it's going to cost a lot of money. But it's like, yes, it could, but if you know that your audience is pretty much in Florida, Texas, New York, California, Pennsylvania, then why the hell are you getting your license in North Dakota, right? And so it's like helping them to really be kind of like efficient and making sure that they're kind of like streamlining the process. So we don't need it in all 50 states, we just need it in this handful of states right now. So like helping on that operation side, and so that's one part. But then if I put my actuary hat on, then I'm way more interested and excited about doing new products, like brand spanking new products, where it's like, do you know how to price this? And my answer is going to be no, nobody does. So I'm like, well, I'll try and figure it out. And so like, those are way more fun. Like what I don't like to do, which is gonna be great because now I'm gonna like probably lose a bunch of clients from this comment, is reserving. Like reserving, kind of like, I'm not a reserve. I have been a reserving actuary, but I way prefer being a pricing actuary. And more importantly, I prefer being a pricing actuary for new products. We're taking existing products where they've now built up some traction and we're able to actually go in and start, really getting our hands dirty with the data and coming up with, in insurance terms, we always talk about the credibility standard, right? Which I remember even when I did those stupid actuarial exams, I would kind of like scratch my head over this, which was this, was it like a 1,000 and get the number wrong, probably 1,082 claims to be classed as fully credible. And it was from a paper written in the 90s or whatever it was, something about like being 90% within the standard deviation of blah, 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 blah. Anyway, like there's some magic number came up and they said, oh, in order to assess a book you need to have at least 1,082 claims, and then you're fully credible. And if you don't, then you need to complement it with industry data or your competitors or whatever it could be. And so that's all fine and dandy. So if you're a startup and let's say you've hit your first, I don't know, like 10, 15,000 customers, which is a lot of customers, like, and that's something to celebrate. And if those guys now have like a 7 to 10% loss frequency, only then have you now hit 1,000 claims. And so that's cool. But the problem is that's 1,000 claims for your whole book. So how the hell am I going to now be able to like differentiate and say people who have black hair versus blonde hair, or drive a red car versus a green car, or whatever it could be? Like at that stage, I'm having to bifurcate your book. As soon as I start to split it, even if it's like a 50-50 split between red cars and green cars, now I only have 500 claims in each. So I still can't like truly like help you like to gain insight and to tell you how you should be changing your pricing. And so that becomes an issue for a lot of these startups, where for ages they might not have enough claims because they don't have enough policyholders to begin with. And so that's where it kind of like gets fun to like go into the realm of, okay, well, let me look at other possible data sources that we can pull off. And I mentioned ISO as an example just because obviously that's like the big behemoth that has a ton of claims data and rating and rules and forms, all the rest of that stuff. So that's one approach, but that could be expensive for a startup. They may not want to take that much money dedicated to it. So instead, it's like, could we find someone in the admitted space for free, a public filing that we can Me Too or take some data from?
Yeah.
Very nice. So you're saying if you don't have 1,082 claims, you shouldn't claim on Twitter that you have a 2% loss ratio. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Well, actually, no, you can say you have a 2% loss ratio, but what you shouldn't say is, okay, well, hang on. Don't bring in loss ratio, Dylan, because that's something different. So like when I think
I'm aware it's different. We're making fun of somebody. It's okay. Don't worry. Don't worry. We're poking fun.
Loss ratio. That's great. You have a 2% loss ratio, and what have you done? You probably told me the paid claims you haven't put in reserves correctly. You may not have thought about IBNR. Maybe it's a liability line, so the statute of limitations 2 years, and you're reporting on that. And the other thing that I hate is like if you try and like, well, people used to do this back in the day, they don't do it now, where you would try and pull wool over someone's eyes by giving them kind of like this really undeveloped amount of losses, claims, and marry it to written premium to show how well you're doing. Like written premium as opposed to earned premium.
Yes,
because earned premium is a much better way of saying this is how my book's currently progressing, and a better way of like explaining your loss ratio would be with incurred. And if you don't have enough claims, then you're going to have to go back and use development triangles from some competitor or again from the industry. So your 2% loss ratio may go up by 5x or whatever.
And Amit, I love that I got to poke fun, and then you destroyed what I was making fun of even more. So thank you. Thank you so much for that.
And to be clear, I think
that was quite literally perfect. Thank you.
We are kicking a dead horse in the sense that these guys kind of stopped that like 3 or 4 years ago. So yeah, I feel bad.
Still funny.
Listen,
still funny.
It is still funny. It is still funny, and I keep egging it on. Amit, one of the things I like about you so much, well, there's a lot, but you mentioned like not liking to do reserving. And I think most people are like, well, I'll do that, and I'll tell this person I'm happy to do it. And we've had this conversation. We're like, I'm going to find somebody to do this for you because I'm just not interested, or I'm not the best person, or whatever. You're so protective of and forward with what you like to do and not like to do. And I think of like where you're like, hey, there's this period of time in August where I'm completely unavailable, and if you don't like it, like fuck off. I don't care at this point. Like this is something that
you do get to swear on your show. I didn't realize.
Yeah, we're good. We're good. This is not on prime time NBC.
Doug has special dispensation. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can't get any insurance for myself on this liability. No public liability insurance, but
that's okay.
Publicity liability. Jesus.
But Amit, I think what Doug's trying to say here is that you are very protective of your time, which allows you to really focus on the things that you're passionate about, and it shows, right? You were on the initial shows when we did the two LinkedIn live events.
Oh yeah. Yep.
You were one of our guests there, which was very successful. That's what kicked off this podcast, and your passion came through. Everyone talked about it, and so when you see people who are just so passionate about it, that's exactly, I want you doing the thing that you're really good at and that you're really passionate about when I hire you, right? So I know that I'm getting absolutely amazing service and I'm getting the result that I want. And so I think that's just applaudable. I think a lot of people need to focus more on this, on what it is that they love to do, that they're really interested in, and don't mind spending massive amounts of time obsessing over the details of that thing because it's interesting to them.
It's a good lesson in that. Like, MGAs are your startups, right? And you can get pulled in many, many different directions, and you'll have the ability to do so. I think the three of us deal with this constantly. We have big ideas, there's things we'd like to work on, but like you have to stay focused and you have to like do what you're good at and what you enjoy. And like I said, it's nice to see like you've never deviated from that. And so yeah, a lot to learn there. Can we briefly mention your actuarial model that you use to make a personal decision in life? That I love this story. Or is that you want to?
No. Yeah, go for it. I mean, yes, yeah. You've started it now, so we're gonna have to, aren't we? Okay.
Well,
Which one? Do you mean the one about the kids? No, that's
yeah,
fine.
about
The one about the kids.
I love this because it shows how actuarial minded you are. And I think this is like one of the first conversations we had. Well, I remember I came out, I was in San Francisco, like chasing a reinsurer, literally across the world. Like I was in London, and then he's like, I'm going to San Francisco. I was like, oh no, I'm going to San Francisco. And Amit's like, well, come hang out with me when this guy says you're really weird. Stop following me around the world. And we were having coffee, and you were telling me about your actuarial model you bought to make a big decision in life, or sorry, that you built to make a big decision in life. And that's when I was like, we had already been working together at that point, but I was like, I love this guy now. And this, if you are using actuarial models to make decisions in life, that's the actuary you want to work with. So I'll let you tell the story, but it's great.
So I started by saying to you as well, I said, whatever you do, don't tell your wife this as well. And you did go and tell her, didn't you? Yeah.
She doesn't listen to the show. It's fine.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah. Great.
No.
So it was, okay. So my wife and I, so it's her birthday today. We've been together next month. We will have been together for 21 years. Sorry.
Colette. I said lovely Colette.
Yeah. I know I should be talking to her instead. I'm here like chatting to you guys. I should be having my morning tea and coffee. Anyway. So so I'm, as you might tell, I'm of Indian descent, and my wife's Filipino. And so she was raised Filipino Catholic. I was raised in England as a Hindu, I guess, but I went everywhere. I went to Church of England school. Half my family was Sikh. On our block, we had a bunch of Muslim, Sikhs, everyone. But anyway, I was kind of like brought up. I had to go. The one that I had to go to was temple all the time. And so as kids, ever since I, as soon as I've known, I'm like, I'm going to have kids when I get older, right? Like, Indians have kids all over the place. So do Filipinos, Catholics. And so I meet my wife, the time girlfriend, chase up to San Francisco. And then we get into our 30s. And all of a sudden it's like, her clock starts to tick because a few of her friends are now starting to have kids. And so it's that whole thing, when one of your friends has kids, they're like, oh, wouldn't it be great if we all have kids together because then they can grow up, which does make sense, right? And so it's like, yes, that's something that we can think of. But for me, I kept on finding excuses as to why we weren't ready yet to have kids. It was just at the beginning, I managed to get away with 7 years of not marrying her by saying I had to take these actuarial exams and then have to do some other things. And then when we did get married, I was like, oh, well, why don't we have a few years of marital bliss before we have kids? And then it got to, I think it was like January, February of 2016. So yeah, 9 years ago, 9.5 years ago. And I was like, all right, we really have to get ready because it's never been a case of are we going to have kids, it's like when and how many. And so I put my underwriter hat on for a qualitative analysis and then my actuarial hat on for quantitative analysis. So my qualitative analysis was to go in and say, let me go interview all my friends, those who are like similar age to me with kids, those who are older than me with kids, and those who are a lot older than me with like, almost like grandparent age or parent age with kids, but then also do the same with people without kids. And then just ask them about like, their experiences of like having kids and what have you. And yeah, like I took that feedback. And one of the things that was quite illuminating to me at the time when I had that conversation was, I would, and this is back in like 2016, so like people were a bit more, maybe they still are, like prevalent about what they post on social media. And so you go on people's Facebook profiles and you see all these like beautiful pictures of smiling families with their kids next to them and all that stuff. And then I heard multiple times from people with kids saying, they'd say something like, don't get me wrong, I love my kids. Like that would be the beginning of the conversation. Like, don't get me wrong, I love my kids. I wouldn't change it for the world, but I wish I was spending a bit more time, or I wish we had spent a bit more time thinking the way you are about whether or not we should have kids. And then the formula you're talking about, or like the actuarial analysis, it wasn't really, I definitely wouldn't call it an actuarial analysis because I don't see this being published by the CAS or the SOA anytime soon. Was to say, all right, well, let me come up with my actual versus expected happiness formula. And so my actual happiness was to say, how do I rate my relationship with my wife? And this is, we've been together since October 2004, so now we're coming up to like April. This is around April time. So it's like, yeah, it's almost 12 years, 11 and a half years that we've been together. And what I realized by going through that was like, well, I would score about an 8. So you mentioned that thing, Doug, about August, like where I'm like hands off on August. It's not the whole of August, but it's like the end because I go to Burning Man. And so why do I love my wife? Well, because she lets me go to Burning Man. She doesn't come with me, thank God. But like, she lets me go and do my own thing. And why do we score an 8? Well, it's because we allow each other to be our own separate person. And that's actually probably way healthier for both of us, because if I dragged her to everything I was doing, she'd go crazy. And so yeah, I scored us an 8 out of 10. And then I started to look at what would happen if we were to have kids. And so going back to kind of like, the quantitative analysis and the feedback I was getting, I would hear some other amazing things. Like, so like, it could be a 10 out of 10. Like I've heard particularly guys talk about like, the respect I have for the mother of my child, my wife, my partner, just went up, exponentially when we had kids. Like just seeing how much they nurture or how much they care, and like what they had gone through. So like you just have this like admiration for your partner, for like what she's gone through and what she's like doing now and the sacrifices she's making. So on one hand, I see that, and then also I would hear things, which is quite sad. I would hear things like, you've never known love until you've had your own kid. Like no matter how much you love your wife or your parents or your friends or whatever, your brothers, like there's this really unique, special love that you'll have with your child. So that's on the one end, 10 out of 10, 100%, 10 out of 10. And then, but sadly, on the other half, you would also hear things like, I don't get enough sleep. I don't have my freedom no more. I can't go to any of these events no more. Like, and you look at your partner and you're like, you did this to me. Or like, because you're like, maybe one of you didn't want kids as much or at that time or whatever it could be. And so, yeah, so you end up in this situation. And sadly, sometimes it can lead to divorce on this as well. Right? Like, that can be like a big thing for new parents or new parents. Is that what they call them? Anyway, so that could be a 0. But then I didn't want to go that extreme. So I wanted to be conservative, or credibility complement my 0 with something a little bit more out there and say, okay, so you could be, and I don't think this is quite right, but this is why I wanted to be conservative, which is to say half the time in our relationship, we're going to be a 10. The other half the time, we're not going to be as bad as a 0, but we're going to be a 2. And again, I'm saying only half the time, not more than half the time on the lower end. And so that means that, the average of 2 and 10, 50% of the time is a 6. And so that's my expected happiness from having kids for us, for my wife and I, was going to be a 6 out of 10, even though my actual happiness right now with my wife is an 8 out of 10. Why the hell am I going to go down 2 points? So that was kind of like the logic behind it. So I explained some of this to my wife, who kind of like, at this stage had known me well enough to sort of not just say what the what the fuck are you talking about. And so, but what I did say to her, I said, okay, well, why don't we just like a tricycle, let's just like keep our training wheels on and let's see how this goes. So the best way for us to do it was to say, let's sort of like in our head have the mindset that we're not going to have kids, and we'll start socialize that to people and see how it feels. And so April 2016, we made that decision. We're not going to have kids. And I said, like, and we'll keep checking in with each other. And what was important for me was for her to go through at least 2 menstrual cycles, like for 2 months, to see like how that went. And yeah, and so and it was emotional, and we would constantly check in to say, is this the right decision for us? We would like she would. I think she was in some yoga class, and it wasn't a prenatal one, but some way they were talking about like the womb and like the power of the woman or something like that. And she got really upset because she was like, I'm never going to be able to like birth kids. I had, and then anyway, so I'll fast forward to my one in a second. So like, yeah, so we just went through this, but we kept checking in and we kept saying, no, we think this is the right decision for us, knowing that, in 2016, it's now 9 years ago, we're a bit older now, obviously. So if we ever did feel the need to have kids, I don't need them to be kind of like mine per se. Like, I'm more than happy to adopt kids and give someone else like a cool life, hopefully. So like it was never that thing that I must like spread my seed. It was more of a case of like, do I want to have children in my life? And instead what we found is that we just love being aunts and uncles and like hanging out with our nieces and nephews, and then our friends who have kids as well, who also call us Uncle Amit, Auntie Colette, and spending time with them. And yeah, so it's been the right decision for us. But I will say, in those first 2 months, so Colette got upset with things, I would have these really weird, vivid dreams of like a daughter or a son that I would never have, right? Like, and they were just like very, very vivid. I'd wake up and I'm like, oh crap, no, wait, no, we don't have kids. No, we're not going to have kids. Okay, all right, yeah, that's right. Yes, okay, and then like move on. And then during the pandemic, when we were clearing out some of our apartment here in San Francisco, Colette like pulls out from my sporting goods box like a baseball glove, baseball mitt, and a baseball. She's like, what the hell you got this for? She's like, you don't play frigging baseball. And I'm like, oh yeah, no, I bought this years ago for like when I had kids, then I'd be able to go and play catch with them. And so like, I had this reminder and I was like, and that got a little bit upsetting as well. But like, again, like we keep checking in. We don't as much nowadays as we did then. But yeah, no, we for the first like probably 3 to 5 years, like just constantly checking in to make sure is this the right decision for us? Are we still happy that that makes sense for us? And then the last thing I would say is the independence. So like, my parents are still back in England. My family's back in England. My wife's family are either down in LA or in Central California in Fresno. And so we didn't have any family close by. In San Francisco, that's not a big deal because like we have an amazing community out here. But what was going to be harder was having that independence to be able to, my parents are only getting older. So when they get sick, being able to, the drop of the hat, be able to like, get on a plane, fly back to England, go spend time with them as however much time I need, and not have this pull or feeling that, oh crap, I need to get back to San Francisco, or I need to get back to America because I'm leaving my wife with 2 kids or however many. Like, even though we're each one of 3, we both wanted 2. Or like, as much as I love having my 2 siblings, and we both do, we were like, that's just, as soon as you have more kids than adults, maybe you're losing the battle. And so yeah, so like, just leaving my wife with potentially 2 kids while I'm there in England trying to support my family was going to be hard.
Yeah. So let me jump in here and say, number one, thank you for sharing something so personal, because we rarely have that here. And 2, you've got Peter now doing all kinds of calculations he didn't know that he had to do here. He's just had his first, how many months ago now?
6 months.
6 months old.
6 months
old,
old.
Amit. So I was listening quite intently there.
Yeah. So he now he's got to do he's gonna request your formula, or this, if you've got a spreadsheet with this all built in, or Python or whatever you're using to calculate. Peter's
the second one.
Ask that for number 2.
We have more. Yeah. Should we have more?
Yeah.
I would second that, Dylan. Thanks for sharing such a personal story. It was really interesting to hear the logic of how you came about it, and I think there's certainly a case for people, especially these days, rush into a lot of things, be that entrepreneurial adventures or personal adventures. So I think the message for me that you're saying there, to translate back to some of this stuff that our viewers are thinking about when they try things, is we don't have to do it today. We can take a moment, study the landscape, take some advice from people, go into it in a more considered way. So yeah, really powerful.
Measured.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was just saying, like that. I think that conversation, and so it was fun. Like I think the joke I made, and this was out without knowing Colette at the time, and it was a bit rude to make. But I was like, if Amit can convince like a Filipino Catholic not to have kids, then this is the guy that we want coming in and like talking to reinsurers for us. But it was more of like just seeing the analysis you did out of that. It was cool, and also we didn't know each other that well at the time, so I think this is before the pandemic, for sure. And just actually, Amit, the other thing I love about you is every time we chat, I'm like, hey, how you doing? Right. And usually it's a greeting, right? It's something that people
I've heard you say this. Yes.
Amit does that. Amit's like, I'm doing well. Like, here's the good things. Or no, I'm doing really shitty today. And here's the thing. And we'll end up having like a 45-minute chat about that. And I'm like, oh, and we do have a little bit of business we have to talk about, or whatever it might be. But nobody else does that, and I love that about you, because you are like so brutally honest, even if it's like, yeah, this is I'm going through something awful right now, and I just need to talk about it. So, but back to the actuarial stuff. It's so that opened up something to me. It's like this guy, just like the amount of analysis he puts into life. Like, this is the person I want working with me to really figure things out. And also, like, you would give us unvarnished truths, like, Doug, this is stupid. don't do this, right? Or don't
which is incredibly important. Yeah, the idea of just wanting a yes man, yes person, telling you constantly that everything you're doing is right, and that is wildly flawed. I've seen some founders who just don't have enough confidence in themselves. They need that approval all the time, and if anything hits them negative, they crumble. And Emmett does a great job of saying no respectfully, but also then giving you the next direction that maybe you want to consider, because that's this thing. The checking in part of that story is, was consistent, right? You're checking in, you're seeing where you are, evaluating where you are, potentially taking a different path, and that's just as important in startups, and certainly that applies to an MGA.
Yeah. Amit, it's okay for people to reach out to you, like thinking about whether or not they're looking for an actuary. Maybe they just want to like pick your brain on something. I know you're always happy to have a conversation. Reach out to you on LinkedIn, have a chat. You're usually at the conferences. Always an excellent hang. Dylan was talking. I don't think this was on the show. Maybe it was.
No, it wasn't. No.
About how you guys last year, and I missed this. I don't know what the hell I was doing.
Oh, this was bowling.
Yes.
Bowling.
Yes. And so Amit, I have already invited now this whole crew, and we said we should put together a nice little crew to go to midnight bowling at ITC. So anyone listening to this has interest in it and is in the MGA world, we'd love to have a great bowling night. What was the casino that we went to? It had 40 something lanes. It was massive. I don't remember what it was. New Orleans.
Orleans Casino. Yeah. I mean, there was like two entrances. Where there was one of them we were told don't go out of that entrance. So it's a bit sketchy. It's a bit dangerous. But like, how did that? That was so brilliant. So because that was okay. So I became a US citizen back in 2017, and then I only really became an American last year because I embraced bowling, and I picked it up after Burning Man. Like whenever I get back from Burning Man, like when you go to Burning Man, they always say things like, whatever you do, don't make important life decisions when you come back, right? So I went to my first one in 2010, and then I came back and made a really important life decision, which was to quit my job and then to try and like work for myself, like set up my own consulting practice, which I did, back in 2010. This year, it wasn't necessarily, this sounds way too dramatic, but I was like, screw it, I want to learn how to bowl a bit better. Like I'm just, it's not really something like I'll do it with my mates and wouldn't have any consistency, don't really think about much what I'm doing other than pin there, ball here, go roll it. Although back at university, I was at UC Santa Barbara for 1 year, and on a drunken night, we decided to go bowling, and I thought it'd be funny being a British guy, Peter, to see if I could like kick the ball down. The problem is I weigh 127 pounds, and the bowling ball was probably more than 10% of my body weight. And so when I went over to like side kick it down, the ball didn't move and I just collapsed instead. I thought I had broken my foot, which was so like this analytical thing you were saying before, Doug, like it does sometimes like falter.
Yeah.
I'm not supposed
Breaks down.
Maybe you're not great at physics, is what we're trying to say.
Yeah, no, or common sense, like gluing my fingers together when I was trying to like fix a table. And so these are multiple Colette stories. Bowling. Anyway, yeah, back to bowling. So then I started to pick it up, and then I decided just the same way, like when my wife first started wanting to play golf with me, I was like, that's great, but I'm not going to teach you, not because I don't want to, but because I've got terrible habits, because I never got taught when I was young. I just like would watch videos and read Golf Digest and like pick it up myself. So I said to go get pro lessons. Like definitely go do that. And so you watch Colette swing now. She has this textbook swing. I mean, it helps that she's be a dancer, so her muscle memory is insane. So she's able to like do all that stuff. But then with bowling, I thought the same way. I was like, well, I'm not really a bowler. I'm not going to have any good or bad habits because I have no consistency. So I went out and got pro lessons on it instead. And yeah, and it was pretty fun, Dylan, because I got lessons in Tahoe from one pro who taught me like a very conservative, like the one-handed approach, and just like you're not bowling, several times a week. This will get you half decent scores, and will kind of like showing you how you're aiming for the center pin, and then depending on if you've got a spare, where those pin positions are, like how you adjust your stance and the arrow that you're going down. Like you're not normally going for one of two arrows, and you're moving your stance either to the left or to the right based on where the pins are left. I'm a left-hander, so based on where the pins are left. And then I went to Reno to the Grand Sierra Resort, and there was another badass pro over there who was teaching me. And then, like, as I did a couple, I kept saying to him, like, can I get a bowling ball? Because that's all I wanted. I was like, I want a frigging bowling ball, like Lebowski. And then he turned around and goes, no, not yet. No, let's just make sure we get your style figured out first. I was like, okay. So waiting patiently, weeks go by, and eventually, I think it was maybe after ITC, Dylan. It must have been because
I think you already ordered it and you hadn't gotten it yet when
No. Yes, that's correct, because I got it in November for the Formula One, and so I eventually in mid-November I got my bowling ball. And then part of that, the technique he taught me is like, well, look, if you're kind of like newish to this, let's just teach you how to do the two-handed bowling technique instead. I was like, okay, it looks amazing on TV. So he would have me practicing that. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm still not great at I'm not great at either one of them. I'm not great at the two-handed, but at least I have that technique, and I have a bowling ball that kind of like helps me with that. But like when we go, I'll just bowl one-handed, depending how many drinks I've had. And then hang out with it. But Dylan, I don't know if he told you this story. He frigging got like 5 strikes in a row. You didn't tell him this?
I didn't tell him that.
Did not say that.
Are you kidding me?
I'm waiting for the Doug Verma redneck remarks. That's why I didn't say it. But yes, it was a blast. And
amazing.
And Amit got it on film too.
I got it on video.
It was pretty insane.
Yeah.
That was the best I ever bowled. So that's a one and done situation.
So how many drinks, Dylan, were you at this point? You need to get back to that level.
We had good target fluid. I think we'd had quite a few, because this was after like the ITC bars and all that stuff, and then me and Dylan just jumped into an Uber and went out to
the most dangerous bowling alley in America, evidently.
Yeah, but it was amazing.
Nice.
Yeah, I could chat with you forever, and we often do, but I do have to run here in a little bit, and we don't want to take up too much of your time. And you need to get back to Colette, celebrate her birthday. 33, I think, right? 33, her 33rd birthday. So I'll
tell her. I said, yeah, she'd be quite happy with that one. Yeah. I was trying to do something. I was like, I know you're not an actuary, but I don't think you got that math figured out. But yeah, that's cool. I'll let her know.
Can I throw an absolute Hail Mary here and just say we took up this hour very, very quickly, and let's immediately schedule a part 2. Let's actually switch everything up. That we've talked about doing a second part with some other people or follow-up episodes. I mean, let's actually get a part 2 immediately and hammer away at some actual insurance in the next couple of weeks.
Actually, what would be fun is maybe getting an MGA on that you work with, Amit, and kind of chatting through like case study or something. Because I think to the extent that they're interested in chatting about that. Also, Amit, we we want to do this live, well, not live, but in-person recording at some point. Obviously, you are high on the guest list there. We will try to have a couple drinks and see what comes out about it. We did this in Ohio a few months ago, and it was unpublishable, unfortunately. But
I totally want to see this.
yeah, we'll send it to you.
It's amazing.
Okay,
A lot of people want to see it.
Awful.
Yeah.
Audio quality is awful. I'm sure half the city of Columbus would sue us if they saw it, because I'm not sure it devolved very quickly. And there was really no insurance chat. There's nothing redeemable about it, but it's good fun to watch on your own. Peter, do you want to? Should we wrap this up?
Let's do it for part two.
Part two.
Part two. But let's also mention, Peter had a great idea. We're going to link the LinkedIn webinar links to this show as well. So when we publish this, we'll also, besides the normal podcast, we will have the LinkedIn Live Part 1 and Part 2 links there. We had great guests. Other than Amit, we had Martha from Reserve on. We had
Elliot Vernon.
Elliot from
Elliot,
from Greenlight. Peter, of course, was there. Doug, myself, on the 2 different episodes. There's a couple other guests we had there. I can't remember everybody, but it's been a little while. Really? I'm sorry. Hey, I can't remember. I can't. Who else? Doug, do you remember?
I don't. Exactly. Yeah, but I don't want to make you look bad.
Okay,
they'll be in the show. They'll be in the show.
Appreciate it. So we'll get that out, and we're going to get a part 2 to this absolutely, immediately in the next couple of week or two. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Amit, buddy, it's so good to see you. I can't wait to see you in person soon. And thank you for doing this.
See you at ITC.
Yeah.
Thank you, Amit.
All right. Cheers, guys.
Bye. Oh, that dude. I love him so much.
I have some big news for you, Doug. I have some big news for you. So live podcast. Yeah. We've been very organized here at Lotto, and we've got some equipment that we will have at ITC. Proper microphones, proper stuff. So we'll be ready to go with the guests you want.
Well, so we have one problem solved. The other is can we actually publish? We got to get our shit together and make sure we don't.
Let's book an hour or two.
Swearing. Like have a real purpose, because I think that's where we went wrong. But yeah, guys, mate, right?
Great guy. Really fantastic.
If you ever have a problem, and this came from Isaac, Isaac at Kettle, because I used to call Amit. What did I call him? Amit, I think, or something, but always wrong. And Amit's too kind to correct you, so Isaac's always like, "It's damn it," or "It's Amit, damn it." I was like, "Oh yeah," so that's how you can remember his name going forward.
Love it.
Just in case you can. All right, guys. That was it was a good time.
Let's just link this to part 2. Let's get it done.
Let's get it going. Okay. All right, guys. Hope you have a good day. Everyone, thanks for listening, putting up with us again, and we'll chat again soon.
Sounds great.
All right.